Whoa, 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 ho, ho, ho. What is up, my people? Yo, what's up, everybody? Hope everything is amazing for you all, as always. I am your host, the Honorable OCT OctaviusHaye, and this is the WACCast podcast. If you didn't know before, now you know. So before we get into the stories for today, please make sure if you listen to this on YouTube, you are liking, you are subscribing, you are hitting the notification bell, and you are commenting. Help us out there. And if you're listening on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, please make sure that you follow the pod so you're notified every time I'm dropping new content on those platforms as well. That being said, let's talk whack to them. All right, y'all. Day 7 of the Tory Lanez trial. And on this day, they had eyewitness Sean Kelly. It was outside of his home that all this happened. He said he woke up from the argument between Meg and Kelsey, and he said they were fighting for a while. They started arguing, then they got into a fist fight, and he says that Kelsey was whooping on Meg, beating her down. He said Meg started kicking a lot, just kicking her feet a lot. Kelsey was just beating her up. He says that gunshots seemed to come from Kelsey's direction, and then that is when Tory got out. That's when the other guy got out, the driver got out, and Tory proceeded to wrestle with Kelsey, and then he had the gun, and 2 more shots went off. Now, Sean Kelly, the witness, was a little bit confused about how many number of shots, but they had audio, so it was 3 shots that went off first, and then 2 shots after a pause. So if you would have believed the way Sean Kelly says it, then that means, since he said the gun sparked from where Kelsey was at, 3 shots from her, Tory fights for the gun, 2 shots go off. The way he says that he was shooting it wildly, at one point he says that, then another point he says Tory was shooting it in the air. So, I guess take from that what you will. I kind of think it means that Tory just wrestled for the gun, accidentally, shot 2 more times just from trying to wrestle for the gun. That's what it sounds like when you put the stories together. That's what makes the most sense. Probably one of the creepiest things, or maybe not the creepiest, but one of the most disturbing things he says, Sean Kelly says he saw, was they all start beating on Meg, just beating her down, just unmercifully, just pounding away on her, all 3 of them, Tory, Kelsey, and the driver. And then, Kelly says they all picked up Meg, and Kelly thought they were going to throw her in the lake, but they end up putting her in a car and driving off. So to me, I don't know if that, what was that from? Was Meg, they said she was real drunk. Was she still trying to fight everybody off? Was she just being unreasonable? Could it have looked like it was them hitting on her when maybe they were just trying to grab her, get her up to put her in a car, and she was just trying to fight with them? I don't know. Like I said, that is something that the defense, I guess, could use to try to make a statement or a claim. But then you wonder, well, why didn't Meg say anything? Why didn't Meg say that she had gotten jumped? Wouldn't that be something that would benefit her story of being the victim? I know Meg is a victim, but wouldn't that be something that help benefit her story, get more sympathy, kind of, maybe explain a little bit more of what's going on? I just wouldn't understand why she would leave that part out if it's, everybody's attacking her. It would make more sense for her to say that part. And again, I got to say, Kelly he's just a guy. He doesn't know them. He has no relationship with any of them. And he's just telling you what he saw, the best of his knowledge. It was late. He just woke up. His son was there. He's concerned for his son. He's probably calling the cops, freaking out. So the story may be a little iffy at times. Sometimes he saw the gun. Sometimes he didn't see the gun. I really don't think he ever saw the gun. I think he just kept meaning he heard the gunshot and from who he believed it was coming from. Probably from just the spark of the gun he was seeing. But he said he never actually saw a physical gun. So I think I got what he was saying. He was just a little jumbled up with his language, which I can understand. Being there testifying and having to remember this thing from, over 2 years ago. So yeah, I'm just curious what comes next with that, because I don't think that prosecution has any witnesses on their end that they can have testify. But another thing that they were saying from Kelly was the prosecution was trying to ask, well, why didn't you describe the shooter, the initial shooter, that night? And Kelly said, well, nobody, they didn't ask me. And then the prosecution, they were also asking, well, why did you, when you called the police, why did you report that that man was assaulting a woman and people were fighting? Why didn't you tell that there was a shooting that went on? And Kelly says, well, that's what was happening at the time of me calling, the fighting. So that's why I reported that, because that's what I was seeing as I was on the phone. When the officers came, I did report the shooting, and they went to go find the people. And again, Kelly says the reason why he did not give a description of the shooter is because nobody asked. And later on, when they came back, he did give a description of the shooter. That's on file. That's on record. I think the prosecution was trying to get at that they believe somebody from Tory's team may be intimidating Kelly, trying to force them to say something that they didn't see or whatever. But Kelly had an answer for that. They then went ahead and got the officer who took Kelly's statement. He had been on before, but they brought him back on. The prosecution did. And they were just, asking about, Kelly and or asking, things about that night in details. And then the defense came on there and they started asking him about Kelly and did you ask Kelly to give a description of the shooter? The officer said they couldn't remember. They showed the police report. The officer was like, okay, no, I didn't. And then they got the description later and, a couple other questions. And then they went to the DNA analyst, a different one from the last time. And they're kind of asking about, DNA on the gun. Could, just because one person's DNA is strong or more dominant, a male DNA is more dominant, does that mean that they were the last person to touch it? And wouldn't the person whose gun it is, wouldn't their DNA be, on the bullets and inside of the gun? And they were asking, just being in the pool, get rid of your DNA. I guess the prosecution was asking that to see if maybe that would have been why Tory Lanez's DNA they weren't able to read it as well. So yeah, it was pretty much most likely DNA would be on the gun, but there are ways to get rid of it. You can wipe it off. Chlorine from a pool can get rid of it. But the last person's DNA, but a person with the most DNA on the weapon does not necessarily mean that they were the last person to handle the gun. And so yeah, just a bunch of nothingness. I have to say the last two witnesses really didn't, add anything. I think, Sean Kelly added the most. Again, I don't think that the prosecution really has much to go on here. I think that there is a ton of reasonable doubt. The prosecution's before they wanted to add 2 more charges on Tory for bribery. This time they're saying if Tory takes the stand, which I don't know why he would, that they want to ask him about his lyrics, his gun tattoo. They want to ask him about August Alsina. They want to ask him about a couple other, just pretty much paint a negative narrative on Tory, which kind of reeks of desperation. I'm not going to lie. The prosecution, they may have taken, no, not may have, they took on this case way too early. They literally had no evidence. One of the things the defense was asking was, and that they had asked it before, but they asked this time, was Kelsey's DNA tested? And, the DNA analyst was like, no, it was not. And if Kelsey's DNA had been tested, would you have been able to determine if she had touched a gun? The DNA expert was like, well, most likely. I think that's weird that Kelsey's DNA wasn't tested. And it's weird that the prosecution didn't want to call forth the witness to what happened. And it's just really making me wonder, do they want the truth or do they just want Tory to be found guilty? Because the thing about the DA and when they go ahead to prosecute, and the prosecution's in charge of trying to get a guilty plea, the reason why they're so sure is because they've gone through all the evidence, they've gone through every possibility, or in theory they're supposed to, and then based off all that, they got the person that did it. But this time it just looks like the goal wasn't to try to find out who actually did it. The goal was to try to put it on Tory, because I can't for the life of me understand why everybody wasn't tested for everything. And if you want to say Meg was the victim, okay, but Kelsey's DNA wasn't tested? Especially when you find gun residue on her, you don't test her DNA, and you have a witness that the witness that called in the police, that came and gave it, that gave a testimony that's on the police report, that says that the female, they saw the gunfight from the female side and they saw the 2 females fighting, and you don't test her DNA? it seems like you already had your story and you're just trying to find any bit of evidence to support that, as opposed to just finding out what really happened and just wanting to get the truth. And I don't know if because Meg said it was him, so they feel like they only could go after him. But that's something to take into consideration. And maybe, yeah, that's the main thing you go off of. It's Tory because Meg said it. But that doesn't mean you just ignore everything else and only bring witnesses or only try to get people to come and testify that tells this story. You get the correct story, you get all this information, and then you get the people to come in. But it just seems like they only want one side to be known. They only want one person to possibly be able to do this. We're at that point now, but it seemed like that before we even got to trial. They only wanted it to be Tory. They never wanted it to be anybody else. And now it's coming back to haunt them because this is a very weak case. And Meg's contradicting Tory, contradicting Kelsey, contradicting EJ, contradicting Sean Kelsey. And EJ's not contradicting Sean Kelsey because he wasn't there at that point. But I'm just saying all these testimonies are contradicting, and the prosecution is going to have to explain why their opening statements just seem so fuzzy now. Why none of this makes any sense. Why they didn't investigate to the fullest extent. Why anything that doesn't have to do with Tory, nobody seems to remember from the prosecution side. Why Tory was tested for everything, but there are other people in the car, and DNA was not tested on Kelsey, and she had gun residue on her. This has to be explained, and this is ridiculous, but we're going to continue on. Judge is hoping that this finishes before Christmas. Honestly, I am too. There's really nothing that, unless there's some smoking gun that prosecution has, or they can find Meg's bodyguard. There's really nothing else. Yeah, so from one controversial case that's affecting hip-hop to another, of course, I got to talk about, YSL, the gang, the record label, whatever. They are facing RICO charges, and one of the artists from the record label, Gunna, went ahead and snitched. I talked about this on the Talk Wax to Me YouTube exclusive, so if you want to get my initial first reaction to that, you can go listen to that. It's on the platform. But long story short, essentially what I was just saying was, essentially one of the things I was saying was, well, how are people gonna react? I'm curious to see how people gonna react. Gunna is very loved. Is hip hop gonna be consistent and treat him the way they treated 6ix9ine when he snitched? Or are we gonna be seeing a lot of people hitting the Gunna copping pleas and trying to shoot him some bail, make excuses, explain why it's different, yada 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 yada, move the goalpost? And what I'm seeing is, yeah, that's exactly what people are doing. A lot of people are saying maybe this was Young Thug's plan. Maybe Gunna's just doing this so he can get out for a little bit. But when it's time for him to testify, if he has to testify, then he won't do it. He'll just go back to jail. But it was just a way for him to get out for a little bit. We gotta wait and see what Thug say. My thing is, we do not have to wait to see what Thug says. He's already agreed that YSL is a gang, which is something that they have been denying. They're not a gang, they're a record label. He put that to bed, said, no, they are a gang. They have done criminal acts in the community. He has seen members of YSL commit criminal acts. He has snitched. And his plea deal is only valid, only because he agreed to come in and testify. He agreed to be guilty of his wrongdoings, and he agreed to testify if need be on trials. They take that witness stand. So he's already told a little bit, and he's agreeing that he will tell a lot more. As far as waiting on Thug, or if this was some Young Thug plan, I don't understand how anybody could think Thug wanted this when the whole argument has been that they are not a gang, and they have brought people from the music industry in to say that they are a record label. They talk about street talk, but they are not a gang. So killing that essentially kills any bit of hope that Young Thug may have had to get out, because they're trying to tie him to a gang, the leader of a gang in a RICO case, and charge him for all the crimes committed. If you say that we do legal activity, there's no way I'm connected to that, it kind of can hurt their case. But now, seeing somebody like Gunna be willing to go ahead and say they're not just a record label, they're also a gang, then it helps them. It helps the prosecution, DA, go ahead and say, well, see, look, they are committing crimes. They are a gang. He's the head of it. Talking about Gunna. I'm sorry, talking about Thug. So kill all that noise. Y'all in denial. These rappers are not talking. A few of them are, like Boosie said something. But most of these rappers are not saying nothing. Of course, WACC 100, he's saying something. I think Game even talked about it a little bit with WACC on Clubhouse. 6ix9ine had to come out. Tekashi 6ix9ine had to come out and do his in people's faces and talk about how everybody a hypocrite and how he snitched on his mans. He exposed them as a gang. All this stuff, and y'all trying to cop pleas for him, and y'all trying to move the goalposts. So 6ix9ine, this made him come from overseas, with his little chicks he buying all this stuff for. Made him come out and make some comments. To me personally, I'm not mad at Gunna either way. I'm not in those gang stuff. I don't care. I just find it funny how everybody was so hard against not snitching. And now we had somebody with paperwork and video with them admitting that, this is a gang organization that has committed crimes, illegal activity. And y'all can still, after having that put in your face, y'all still find a way to say, oh, yeah, man, I don't know. Yeah, man, we got to see. I don't think he snitched. He just trying to come home. It's like, come on, man. Like, y'all, that's some strong denial, and I give you that. That must mean you really love this dude, and that's fine. But come on, he snitched. Who cares? If you don't look, bro, unless you really live in the street life, why do you even care, bro? Would you want this facade? These people are millionaires. They're not out here living this life. I mean, I guess Thug kind of was, but maybe I don't know. We don't know. He's still on trial, but we'll see. But in any event, stop pretending that these millionaires ain't gonna snitch. They want their money. They got too much to live for. That big booty girl that came and got Thug, and he over here using his hand. Man, y'all must be crazy. I thought that he wasn't going to say nothing. I knew that, man. I didn't know. Unfortunately, I feel bad for everybody involved. This is probably, I'm sure it was a tough decision for him. And I can only imagine how much he's replayed this in his mind and what he's thinking about right now. He's probably nervous. His career may be over, wondering what he's going to do next. Who knows? It may not be over. Everybody don't care about that stuff no more, so you never know. And right now, people are capping just because I think they went so hard at 6ix9ine. And they know they'll be a hypocrite if they act like nothing happened with Gunna. So I think that's why a lot of people are being quiet or making excuses or saying like, well, let's just wait and see, what Thug say, or let's just wait and see if he take the stand. Okay, but that wasn't the only person that we found out came out and took a plea deal, agreeing to plead guilty and agreeing to come and testify in court against YSL if need be. I tell you, man, it be your own blood since the days of Cain and Abel. We've known that you can't automatically assume that blood and family has your back 100%. And unfortunately, although I don't think that it was to spite Young Thug, I think it was more so to save himself. Young Thug's brother, Unfoonk, has decided that he will also be taking a plea deal and he will also become an informant for the DA. And if, we'll testify for not becoming an informant, but we'll testify for the DA. I guess be to a degree an informant. He'll take the stand. They played a whole audio of his baby mama saying he need to tell, he got a kid, he need to think about his son, he need to think about himself. They not thinking about him and his kid. And you can just see Unfoonk just crumbling down as his audio is being played and him realizing what he is, man. Hey, man, he's a sorry nigga. I'm trying to come home. And that's what it is. And all the street stuff, street talk, gang signs, guns, talk, all that stuff. When you facing big time and when you got your girl on the phone pretty much begging you and you got a child that you got to be there for, I understand. I'm not mad at any of these people. I just find it, kind of ironic how these are the super thug gangster niggas who, Gunna and Thug are making songs talk about taking to trial, and you got these people talking about flipping off the DAs and all this and the judges, and bro, man, there's a lot of copping pleas coming out right now. And again, I don't care either way, but I'm just curious, what does everybody got to say about this? What do y'all make of this when it looked like this empire was crumbling down? And they're giving a lot of people plea deals because they really just want Thug. They want him. He's the mastermind. He's the kingpin, the head honcho, the boss, the leader, the gang in their eyes, and they want him. They want him to face the big time. And with more and more people admitting that the YSL is a gang, and they were under him. I mean, if you admit YSL is a gang as well as a record label, and and Young Thug is the head of it, you're pretty much admitting that he's the head of a gang, and that's all that they'll need in the court, plus whatever evidence they have with their wiretaps and videos and whatever other documents they've been able to find. So, I don't know. You can continue to be in denial all you want to, but the facts are the facts. They have agreed to testify. They have admitted this is a gang. They've taken a plea deal to cooperate with the DA in this investigation. Simple as that. So that's what it is. Where this goes, I don't know. This is the type of stuff that, breaks families apart. Young Thug, regardless of what happened to him, I don't know. Can you repair that relationship with your brother? Is that forever tarnished? Like, what's up with the rest of the family? And, Unfoonk, he's not as big of an artist as Gunna was. I don't know if he can recover. He's still very much street level artist. I don't know if he can have a career after this. I don't know what he's coming back to. And you would argue maybe it would have been best for him to not take the plea deal, and just do the time and try his best to get, Gunna out with like that, so that Gunna can support his family while he doing his time. Because now, where the money coming from? And who knows? You never know what can happen. And I don't know. We don't know what Young Thug is thinking. Nobody's ever talked to him. We don't know what he's thinking. We know right now, they're still his lawyers. They getting evidence removed, from the trial, and this is still an ongoing thing, and he's got to be there. So, in the midst of seeing these people who he may be as shocked as all of us to find out that they went ahead and took plea deals in the midst of all that, he still got to show up and present himself and get the information and work out a game plan with his lawyers. So, I don't know, man. Like I said, it's a messed up situation from them being friends. I don't have no beef, or I'm not, maybe not no beef, that's the wrong word. I'm not upset at anybody for doing what they felt they had to do. I'm not involved in this street stuff. I'm not involved in no street stuff. So go ahead. I mean, the only thing I want to know is when the people going to stop being hypocrites and just admit to what it is. It's fine. You can still listen to them, but hey, by every definition of the word, they both snitching. All right, man. So another story here, and this is just very, very sad. Very sad for our childhoods. If you was an early 2000s kid, late 90s, early 2000s kid, real sad for the childhood, man, to have Romeo and Bow Wow, always compared to each other, even though I personally don't think that that's fair to Bow Wow, that he has to be compared to Romeo, just because they was both kid rappers around the same time, because Bow Wow's, but that's beside the point. The main point is, it seems like they getting older, they're growing, and maybe the people they idolize, they starting to see that they're human. I don't know. So, with Bow Wow, his longtime collaborator JD, who he was signed with, So Def, who was a huge part of Bow Wow's success, even though Bow Wow seems to not think so, who wrote a lot of his hits, a lot of production for Bow Wow, just made Bow Wow what he is, a megastar. Now, they've been beefing for a minute. Bow Wow came out and said he wished he had signed to Snoop Dogg a few months ago, and that, JD, Jermaine Dupri, didn't discover him, Snoop Dogg did, and it kind of got deaded after that, and everybody was kind of like, huh, what's that about? But nothing else was said. And then JD comes out in the interview and says that he told people over at BET that they need to do 106 in Park because we needed something that promoted black artists. He knew he had Bow Wow, who was super talented and had a big fan base, but maybe wouldn't have been as accepted on TRL, which was on MTV at the time. And so he had the idea, sparked the idea in JD's mind. He says this and he gave that to, I don't even know if he had the name for it, but I'm just saying he had a show like TRL is what I'm pretty sure he said. We need something like that for black people. Bow Wow comes out and said, "Nah, that's all cap, bro. He didn't do none of that stuff." He listed the creators of 106 & Park. I can't think of their names right now, but he listed them and said they did it. JD trying to take credit for something, yada yada yada. That became a whole big thing. On the flip side, Romeo is going at it with, Master P, and kind of came out and called his father out for, shouting out that the guy who just committed suicide. I can't think of his name either. But, Master P, gave him some well wishes, sweet words for him after, his passing. And Romeo comes out and said, well, you ain't had nothing to say about, my sister committed suicide. To which, then he started, making all these claims about Master P, faking like he rich. They've been struggling for years. They've been living month to month. Romeo said he never saw no money from his Little Romeo time, that his dad took all that money and paid the IRS. He had to pay his taxes. Romeo says his dad is broke, and he lives for, the appearance of having money, and he's pretty much, I guess, abandoned his family. It's all about him. Romeo says he's been more than loyal and hasn't said nothing and stuck by his father, but he's tired of this. And, what's his name? Master P came out and responded and said, hey, man, look, I'm not perfect. And, I thought this was about your sister. You're mourning, I'm mourning. I like to come out and help people. I like to contribute. That's how I deal with it. You a grown man. If you ain't got it, don't blame me. Pretty much you're not listening, and we need to move past this. We don't have to take this to the socials. He said, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but we can heal. And, just pretty much like that, not trying to say too much, but just, slightly addressing Romeo. And it's like, dang, man, Romeo beefing with his father. Bow Wow's beefing with the guy who's like a father to him. I have to be like a father figure to him, especially he's his music father. At the very least, they shared a lot of many years together while Bow Wow was growing up, becoming an adult. I'm sure JD was there for him, giving him a ton of advice. I'm also sure there were a lot of other men in his life, but clearly with them working together and Bow Wow being signed to Jermaine Dupri, he would have most likely spoken to him a lot more than he would have spoken to others. And JD was the guy who, when Romeo left him and he was trying to do his own thing, JD came back with him, and they got Romeo a whole bunch of another string of hits. So, I really don't know. It's a lot going on. And on Romeo's side, he always seemed like the loyal son. Him and his dad always seemed like they was giving game. We always talked about how Master P was like one of the richest dudes in hip-hop. People always just say his net worth was so high. Why don't anybody ever talk about how rich Master P is? And I don't know, man. Was that all cap? Was that all lies? We got Bow Wow. We got Romeo. He's showing off mansions and stuff. So I don't know. I'm thinking. It makes me wonder. I don't know. But, Master P, he always talk about making movies and all this other stuff, and working with his noodles and his chips. And Romeo having his chips. So like I said, I don't know. This is just crazy to me that something like this could happen. I never would have thought either one of these things would happen. I never would have thought Bow Wow and Jermaine Dupri could be at odds like this. I for sure never would have thought that Romeo and Master P would be at odds like this, since they have a blood father-son relationship. So let's start with Romeo and Master P. I get where Romeo's coming from, and I can definitely understand, being hurt by your father. And I do think that he's been hurt by his father. I think that is more. I think the financial stuff is just a part of it. I think it's part of the greater hurt, and I think that's that he feels abandoned. He feels like his father abandons him for the spotlight, and I don't know. I can see that, from his point of view, and maybe a lot of his concerns and his siblings' concerns were ignored. Maybe he partially blames Master P for his sister's suicide. And I don't want to put that on. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. I don't want to put that on Master P. And maybe blames is the right word, but he has some resentment maybe towards his father. Maybe if he had been around more, maybe he could have helped her. I don't know. I hope that what happens with them is, what Master P wants to happen, that they can come together and grow and be stronger together, and whatever wrongs are happening, they can find a way to fix it. Because one of the things that Master P said was true. You grown now, and you have to be an example for the rest of the kids. So let's be an example of trying to make this work, trying to make this right. And, I don't know. I don't know what the behind the scenes is with them. So I don't know if that's something that can realistically happen, if that's just good talk for Master P. Clearly, Romeo was hurt and upset because Romeo, I don't know, I always called him he always stuck out to me as a stand-up guy. I don't think this is just a spoiled kid. I don't think this is like 50 Cent's son. I don't think this is just a spoiled kid mad because his daddy ain't giving him his money. I think that is more to it. And I just think they need some healing with each other. On the flip side with Bow Wow, I mean, even the Brat came out and the Brat was like, man, I'm tired of you talking about my brother, my friend who helped you out, who guided your career, and just naming all the list of things that JD did for Bow Wow's career. She even told Bow Wow to pull up, but Bow Wow played it off smooth. He was like, man, we're not finna do that. I get where Brat coming from. She's standing up for a man. He said that none of them have his phone number, so they gotta reach out to him on social media, which I thought was like, okay, it's a little weird. Then I remember he was just on. Bow Wow was just on what's their name? Roy and Maul's podcast. JD was on there, and Bow Wow, hit him up and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe JD changed his number since then. I don't know. But like I said, that's sad. I think Bow Wow. I'm usually a Bow Wow defender against everything. I think Bow Wow is a legend who's not been given the respect he deserves for his imprint on the culture, the amount of hits he has. I think things like the Versus and the Millennium Tour have really helped to highlight that Bow Wow has hits. He's a legend. He's a performer. He's great. But in this instance, I have to say I think Bow's wrong, man. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know if Bow thinks that maybe Jermaine Dupri did some shady stuff with him or what's going on with that. But I mean, Bow, you must be out your mind. Like, Snoop Dogg may have discovered your talent, but Jermaine Dupri he highlighted your talent to the world. Nobody cared about the little kid in the skits on the Doggy Pound album, on the Doggy Style album. It wasn't until you came out your own with Jermaine Dupri, bigging you up, getting you those beats, helping you write with those bars and writing those bars and promoting you as the star that you are and making you, stand out. And you, of course, you have that talent. You're Bow Wow. You're talented. You're able to, take the ball and run with it. But still, he was the one who put you in that opportunity to be able to take that ball and run with it. He's the one who got you to that point where he had big spotlights on you. He had the people come to watch you, to look at you. He gave you the exposure you needed to showcase that talent. And I don't know what's going on with y'all. I don't know if you feel, like I said, the only thing I can think of is maybe some money you feel like you're owed or something. But there's a different way to do that, and to discredit a man who, by all accounts, loves you and has been loving to you, and until you can say something different, man, I'm agreeing with Brad, man. I think that's foul, and it's messed up how you try to minimize his contributions to your career. They're great. He's the biggest contributor to your career, even bigger than Snoop. And I get what you say about Snoop, that he got you, brought you out, and he had you on his album, and Snoop is probably number 2. But Jermaine Dupri made you a legend, and you can't take that from him, bro. And you may not like him no more, and I understand. Hey, people grow apart, and sometimes people brought in your life for a moment to get you through something, and when that phase is done, y'all may be done. I get that. You don't have to hold on to loving him, but Jesus, man, Bow, calm down. And I would say, even though I know he may be hurt, Romeo, you shouldn't be tripping, doing your dad like that. Even though I can understand, Romeo, you doing them ICDC college commercials. I understand, Romeo. I'd be a little mad at my dad too. What the hell is this? I get it. Over here need money, over here dancing, doing ICDC college. I get that, man. Look, I'm sympathetic. That's hard. All right, but this is, we don't need to know about this. I just hope y'all get together. And Bow Wow, man, you tripping, but maybe you not tripping. Maybe you owe some money. I don't know. But Jermaine Dupri is a huge part of your career. He definitely made your career. Back up off of him. Romeo, let's hope no more ICDC college in your future. So that's the show for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in and getting this whack wisdom, and I hope that you return next week to get a little bit more from me. With that being said, this is the WACCast podcast, and I am whacking off.
It's the WACCast podcast, yeah.
Talk whack to me, talk whack to me,
yeah.
Talk whack to me, talk whack to me.
It's the WACCast podcast, yeah.
Talk whack to me, talk whack to me,
yeah.
Talk whack to me, talk whack to me.